two lines are parallel, what can you tell me about their slopes?
They'll be the same.
Huh?
They'll have the same.
They'll be the same,
or
okay?
the same
Parallel means same slope. So if you are giving a point and a parallel line, that's pretty much the same thing as being given the point and the slope. Okay, you'll have M and a point on the line. That's all you need. So in a way, this is a review lesson, although it's a little bit different. I think had I just given you the worksheet, you probably wouldn't have known what to do. So let's go ahead and do some examples in the notes. Example number 1, it says finding the equation for the line that passes through the point 4, 1. So somebody raise their hand and tell me, how would you label point 4, comma 1?
X and Y.
Okay, thank you. So 4 is your X and 1 is your Y. You should always do that when you're given a point. Now if you're given 2 points, then it needs to be X1, Y1, X2, Y2. But 1 point, X, Y. Now here's the key to the second part of the sentence. It says it's parallel to the line y equals 3x plus 7. And I'm going to underline the 3. Why?
Because it's the same 3?
Because that is the slope. Exactly. So when we go to step 1, as long as it says parallel, it's important that it says this, okay? We're going to do another lesson where it's perpendicular, and we know that's not the same. But since it's parallel for step 1, we can write out the slope is equal to, no, it's going to be positive 3. It's the same, okay? They're parallel lines. They have the same slope. So you don't have to make it negative. It's just whatever they give you. Okay, step 2. Find the y-intercept. So how do you find the y-intercept if you just know the slope and a point? So this goes back to a lesson we've done quite some time ago, but it's pretty simple. Yes.
It's the number without anything by it, or?
Well, yes, it is. It's b. So if it was y equals 2x plus 10, then the y-intercept would be 10. But the question is, though, how do I find it giving a point and the slope? What were you going to say?
Is Y the Y?
Y is not the y-intercept. Nope, it's... let me get you guys started. What's the equation for a line, slope-intercept form? So now we have this equation. How do you think you can solve for b? I'll give you a hint. You're already given most of the information up here. Yep, keep going.
Numbers where they go?
Yeah, you put the numbers where they go. So what are you going to replace with y? 1, right? Because that's what they gave you. What are you going to replace with m? 3. That's what you figured out with the parallel line information. And what are you going to replace with x? 4. So remember, in algebra or in math, you can always solve for an unknown variable if you know everything but that variable, right? So we'll have a bunch of numbers over to the left, and then we can figure out b. Yes? So notice I'm putting in parentheses for everything I plugged in.
That means we're going to multiply.
Is there only 3 or 4 steps?
There's just 3 steps. All right, so 1 for y. I'll get there in a second. 3 for m and 4 for x. No. Okay, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So what she said was, do you put the 7 in place of the b? So it says the line is parallel to this line. When 2 lines are parallel, they're not going to have the same y-intercept. So although our final answer's line will be 3x plus something,
It could be 4.
it won't be 7 because it's parallel to this line. So that's a good question, but 7 will not be the y-intercept of our parallel line. If you think about it, if they're parallel, they won't have the same y-intercept because one line will be above or below the other one. Okay? So that's actually what we're trying to figure out. What is the y-intercept of that second line? We already know that the slope is 3.
So never put the y-intercept of the equation again.
Yeah, because then it would be the same line. If they had the same y-intercept and slope, they wouldn't even be parallel at that point. They'd be the same line. So correct. Don't just assume it's 7 or whatever. So you got 1 equals 12 plus b. What would you do from there?
Subtract
Subtract 12.
1.
You would subtract 12, right, from both sides. And you get b equals
Negative 11.
negative 11.
That's it.
Well, they asked what step 3 was. Now that we've figured out the y-intercept, we then need to write the formula out for our new line. Well, the new line, the only difference is the y-intercept is negative 11. It has the same slope.
So y equals 3x plus negative 1.
There you go.
Or minus negative.
Yes. So y, we can copy this equation and move it down to the bottom, right? Because it's the same form. The only difference is it has a different slope and y-intercept. So the final answer is y equals same slope, but it's plus negative 11, so we'll write minus 11. So this line is parallel to the original line. It's just what? It just has a different y-intercept. Okay, I want to do 3 more
Can
examples.
you go back down to the bottom?
Yes, I can. Find an equation for the line that passes through negative 2, 4. Let's go ahead and label it. And is parallel to the line y equals 1/3. So what's the slope going to be?
1/3.
Right. Thanks. You should be able to just equate the word parallel with equal slope to the point where it just becomes second nature. All right, now let's try this again. How would you find the y-intercept?
4.
Replace
Replace everything, right? Except for what?
b.
Except for b, right? So I'm going to replace y with 4, m with 1/3, whoops, x with negative 2, and that's part of the reason why I did this example, because we're going to end up with a fraction, and that's okay. Fractions happen. Somebody raise their hand and tell me what is 1/3 times.
Whoa.
Yes, 1/3 times negative 2 is negative 2/3. So you're going to have 4 equals negative 2/3. It doesn't matter where you put the negative, I just put it on top.
Am I supposed to do this wrong?
How do you?
Question is, how do you solve for this? Well, you still have to move this to the left, so you still have
Yeah,
to
we're just gonna be
add 2/3 to both sides.
find a common.
But in order to, actually, I'm going to do this one a different way. I hardly ever do this, but I just thought of it, so we're going to do it this way, which is fine.
No.
It's not. So the first thing I'm going to do is write this as a mixed number, and that's the reason I'm doing this, because that step is easy. 4 plus 2/3 is just 4 2/3, right? That's easy. You literally just put the fraction next to the whole number. Okay, now the question now is, how do you convert a mixed number to a fraction?
You multiply and add.
Multiply.
Okay, so here's what you do. Take this, take the bottom, multiply it by the whole number, that's 12, and then add the top,
That's 14.
and then divide by the original bottom. So it's 14/3. That's right.
Hmm.
So B is 14/3. I'll go over that one more time for those of you who missed it,
And
because
that's it?
I know that might not have done that in a while, but I'll say it one more time. You take the bottom of this fraction, it's a mixed number, multiply by this number, that's 12, add the top, that's 14, divide by the original denominator. So the denominator in your mixed fraction will always be the denominator in your converted fraction, unless of course you have to reduce it.
That's how we usually do that, but
And then, so remember, their slope is the slope of that parallel line. They both have 1/3. The only thing that changed was the y-intercept, which is 14/3.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
So do you want us to?
More examples. So that's our final answer. Y equals 1/3 x plus 14/3. The last two are the easiest, by the way. Find an equation for the line that passes through the origin.
Oh.
So by the way, what is the origin?
Zero.
Zero.
It's not just 0.
Zero.
0, 0. The origin is a point. Yes.
Why is that news?
Look at that face.
That looks like something different.
Shh. Parallel to the line y equals 4. Okay, well, what is the slope of the line y equals 4? A lot of you know this. I know at least one of you. What?
Continuous line
Yeah, what's the slope of it?
or line?
Zero.
Just
It's 0.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to remind you guys, if I were to rewrite this equation in slope-intercept form, it'd be 0x plus 4. Can you now see what the slope is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just remember, if it's y equals, it's a horizontal line.
Being a no.
It has a slope of 0. So that means since it's parallel to that line, it's also going to be 4 for the parallel line. So we're given a point, the point 0, 0, and the slope 4. That's all we need to come up with an equation. So let's do that. Let's see, go back and copy this. For some reason, oh, it popped up way down there. Yeah, it's like a hologram. Okay, so we're replacing everything with 0, right, except for the slope. So we got 0 equals, slope is 4, but it won't matter because the x value is 0, right? Okay, so what do you think b is going to be?
0.
So
b is going to be
equals-
0.
B to 0.
So y equals 4x.
I wrote the wrong slope. I was completely... I even said what the slope was, and I wrote it down. It's not going to matter for b. B's still going to be 0, but slope is 0. I apologize for that. Sorry, I was distracted. I was distracted. B will still be 0.
Wait, 0 times 0.
0 times 0 is 0.
Okay.
So y equals 0x plus 0.
Yeah, we're going to simplify that.
Just B equals 0.
Okay, what he said is right. It's going to be y equals 0x plus 0.
Or y equals 0.
Okay, so when we plug in the slope and the y-intercept, it's 0x plus 0. But that just becomes 0 times x is 0 plus 0 is 0. So your final answer is y equals 0.
Will this be the same for x?
I will talk about that. Yeah, kind of.
Because I'm working on number 6.
All right, guys, I want to show you what the graphs would look like for this. Here's the line that it's parallel to, y equals 4. We found the new equation to be y equals 0. If you were to graph these on a graph, so the y equals 4 is going to be up here somewhere, okay? The y equals 0 is going to be below it. But can you guys see that these are parallel?
Yeah.
Even though I can't draw a straight line.
So wait, y equals 4 would be on the line 4, then y equals 0 would just be on the origin line.
now.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, simple enough.
So you can see they're parallel, like train tracks. So he asked, leading to example 4, is it going to be the same for x? Well, so let's read this question. Find the equation for the line that passes through 8, 0 and is parallel to the line x equals 4. What is the slope of a x equals equation? Infinity,
Or
undefined, and a word that starts with the letter V,
Vertical.
vertical. So we know that the slope of our line, since the original line is x equals 4, we also know that the slope of the line we're trying to find is also going to be vertical. Okay, so this one's not going to take long at all because all we have to do is look at the x value. Remember, a vertical line has an equation x equals whatever. So guess what? when it is parallel to a line x equals whatever, you literally just choose the x value of the point. And that's the final answer. X equals 8. Okay?
The easiness.
So whenever it says x equals, you just like look at it.
Yeah, and actually the last example, now that I think about it, the y value of our point is what ended up being y equals 0. So if it's parallel to a line y equals, just look at the y value of the point. If it's parallel to a line x equals, just look at the x value of the point.
Wow, thank you.
So for like number 6, if x equals 0, so that all would be